So in this demo, I'm going to be looking at the network architecture B, part 1. So in part 1 of network architecture B, NWAR6221, activity 1 is an address plan. Activity 2 is a hierarchical switch structure. Activity 3 is a network design or a diagram, network diagram. And activity 4 is Active Directory logical diagram. So in total, we've got 3 network diagrams that needs to be drawn. Activity 1, which is coming up with an IP address plan, I will go through now, where we are using an online variable length subnet mask calculator. Activities 2, 3, and 4, we are using Microsoft Visio. There was a Visio video, and there's online information available on how to create network diagrams using Visio. You all have access to Visio as well. So the assignment specifies, or the POE document specifies, that we need to use Visio as well. So please stick to using Visio so you get uniform diagrams as well. So activity 1, designing an IP address plan. First thing to take note of is the error that needs to be corrected on the POE document. So the tables that is given to us here is, it says Johannesburg office and Johannesburg Sandton office. The first one is actually Pretoria mainland office, so that should be corrected. The first table is Pretoria mainland office, and the second table is for Johannesburg Sandton office. So you've got Johannesburg office. This one here needs to be corrected to Pretoria mainland office. Now, how to create the IP address plan, activity 1. It says the sites will be using the following IP address blocks on their internal networks. So you got Johannesburg LAN and Johannesburg wireless, and exactly the same IP addresses are used in Pretoria as well. Then they say, based on the IP address blocks, design an efficient IP address for each site scheme, assigning subnets to each department based on the number of required IP addresses for each department, and fill in the table address according to the plan below. So how would we do this now? We need to draw 4 of these tables according to this IP address block that they are talking about here. We will go and open up Google. So I'll go into my web browser, and I'm going to look for a variable subnet mask. So variable length subnet mask. So I can see that I've already got one. So it's a VLSM calc. It's just warning me that the site is not secure, and that's fine because it's not HTTPS. Now, what is the name of my network, or the number of the network? For the first one, it is 192.168.10.0 in your assignment in part 1. But in my example, I'm just going to use 0. And the number of subnets is according to the table. So I go back and I look here according to the table. And I can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 departments. Plus, in this question, they tell me at the bottom here, I need to also make sure that I have an additional subnet for servers. There's a point here that says NB. Also take into consideration a separate subnet for your servers on each site, any other VLANs or subnets that may be required. So I'm going to create a subnet for each of the different departments, plus one additional one for my servers, according to this one. The first one is Pretoria office. I'm going to open up my variable length subnet mask calculator, and I'm going to tell it that's my major network name. I type it in the first block. Then I say that I need to have how many subnets? 6 subnets. And I click on change here. Then it allows me to type in 6 different subnets. I then give them the names and then the sizes. So for my servers, it can vary in size according to the requirements that's given in the assignment. So here they've got 10, 6, 16, 25, 42, 50, 30, 10, 6, 16. So I'll enter the sizes and then the names of the subnets. So there might be servers, and then other examples of departments they've got is ICTT, Management Operations. So ICT, Management, Operations, Software Development, Artificial Intelligence, Software Development, Artificial Intelligence, Mobile and Robotics. So I type it in and then I click on submit. Now here you can see that the subnetting here, because there's too many IP addresses that needs to be allocated. It's not going to fit. So what I can do is then reduce the size of the departments according to what is required or what is needed. Or I can change the subnet mask. But according to the subnet mask that they've given me, I've entered too many addresses here. So you can correct that. But what is the next step? The next step would be to open up a Excel document. So in the Excel document, we're going to copy and paste this table in. I'm going to then indicate that this is IP Pretoria mainland office. And then I'm going to copy that table that has been created. Okay, so I've copied and pasted now my table. I'm just going to resize the columns. And then I rename the columns according to what is required in the assignment. So I go back to the assignment document, and it says that the first column must be department. So I'm going to change the subnet name here to department. The next column, it says, needs to be subnet ID. That's the name of the network, this address here. So I'm going to call this subnet ID. In the next one, it says it must be IP address range. So assignable range is called IP address range. And it says broadcast. There's broadcast. Subnet mask. We're going to use this decibel mask as the subnet mask. And then number of IP. That's the allocated size. I'm going to delete the columns that I don't need. And then I've got my table here, and that's the first table. So I'll do the same for the others as well. So according to the POE document, it says create one of these tables for each of the 4 address blocks here. So you've got Johannesburg. You'll do this exercise for this IP address, then this one, then the Pretoria for those 2 as well, because of these departments are different according to the table. So Johannesburg Sandton, ICT, smart devices, quantum computing, you can see they've got different departments in Sandton office, and they've got different departments in Pretoria mainland office. Then moving on to the next question, what is required here and what does it look like? Activity 2, it says Microsoft Visio must be used to draw the diagram and need not show end devices. So the first network diagram that you need to draw is something called a 3-layer hierarchical switching topology. Now, what is that? So I went into Google and I said, what is a 3-layer hierarchical switching topology? And Google came up with some articles that I can get from the library, firstly. And then it gave me a simple definition. Hierarchical internetworking model is a 3-layer model for network design first proposed by Cisco. It provides enterprise networks into 3 layers: core, distribution, and access layers. Then there's some study guides and there's some online videos that I can watch on how to create my 3-layer hierarchical switching network topology. So what does the diagram look like? This is what a typical diagram would look like. I clicked on the Cisco link and this is the study guide. So access layer is the switches that are connected directly to the devices. Then I've got a distribution layer. So this access layer would be for all of your different departments. So in the Pretoria office and the Joburg office, you would have these different departments. Then distribution layer will be connecting the different departments to each other. And the core layer on the top will be giving us connectivity to the internet. They said that should be a redundant link as well. So that's an internet connection on the top. So then they tell me a little bit more about what is an access layer, distribution layer, and a core layer. So you can read through that and then customize this diagram using Visio. More information, go and look at the YouTube videos that's already there on creating the hierarchical network diagram. So there's the hierarchical network model diagram, the switching network diagram, and it gives you some key points as to how to create one according to the case study. What is the next network diagram that we need to draw? So it's given us an additional question that needs to answer a theory question here. With multiple redundant data paths in the switching topology design causing loops, discuss how spanning tree protocol will prevent loops and broadcast storms that could essentially devastate the network. So then you go ahead and answer that theory questions. You'll find answers to these questions in your textbook as well. Activity 3 is a typical network diagram, the diagram that you've been used to drawing. So all of the network diagrams that you've been drawing thus far is this typical network diagram. Make sure that it matches the case study. And secondly, all of these devices that are included in your mark allocation, that you do show it on the network diagram. Otherwise, you don't receive the allocated marks. So things like your computers, your laptops, servers, security devices, showing which is an internal, external, and DMZ zone. Wireless connectivity is taken into consideration. So wireless access points are included. And then finally, they speak about activity 4, which is an Active Directory domain. So this one, they want us to give a domain diagram that includes the VTG forest, domains, sites, subnets, organizational units, groups, users, and GPO objects. So what does a typical Active Directory diagram look like? I can go again and have a look at, I can Google Active Directory logical diagram. It comes up with a number of results. And if I click on that logical diagram, let's just have a look. I can see it's created an Active Directory. Now, also take note in Visio, you've got already templates to draw each of these diagrams. So see which templates are there already, and then customize it to look like this diagram, where you can see the organizational unit. Yours is not going to be called organizational unit. You're going to indicate that this is an organizational unit, but you will actually create it for the various departments. So if you need to create an organizational unit for research, for ICD, for software development, for whatever the departments were, then you will name the departments correctly. And then also you would create users, computers, groups, and also Active Directory group policy objects. So here, for example, you can see group policies. So in your diagram, it's going to look something like this diagram here that shows us the complete structure for your domain, sites, organizational units, users, computers, etc. So that now discusses what is required of us for part 1 of Network Architecture B. IP address table, that's this one here, and then 3 network diagrams using Visio.